Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for The Walking Dead Season 5. I'm sporting the Rick Grimes beard, as you can see. I was getting into the spirit of Walking Dead Season 5, so I grew it out, plus I kind of straightened it a little bit, so the best I could do. I know it's inferior, but be thankful for what you have, I guess. But I'm here to bring you the review for tonight's episode, which was what happened and what's going on. And I'm going to tell you, if Walking Dead didn't already tear out our hearts in the mid-season finale, they tore our heart out in this episode, threw it on the ground, and then stomped it like you would a walker's head. Just wow. Um, so many emotions right now when it comes to The Walking Dead. I mean, it was just such a great episode, but just so sad. So many things happening in it. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that. Warning right now, if you have not watched this episode, major spoilers. I mean it. This was just as crazy as it could get. So if you're not caught up, do not watch the video or else you will be spoiled. Okay. So this episode starts out with some different montages. It's like a montage of different things where it shows like various scenes throughout the show. They show the prison, they show Woodbury, they show the railroad tracks leading to Terminus, and then they show like a bunch of like mixed in shots of like the group basically uh, getting a car and that they actually have a funeral. So you have that going on, and then you just see like different things. Like you see a picture, you see another picture, you see like the house, you see Noah and Tyrese standing in front of a house, just really moving throughout the episode and showing different things. But definitely a very interesting take on it. I think they did a very good job of showing the different scenes and going back and forth. They really did great, and I think they really made you wonder what was going on as you're trying to follow the episode. And it wasn't that complicated, really. I think they balanced it just enough that you weren't confused, but that you were also surprised in the end by the way that everything turned out. So what ends up happening is Rick, Noah, Tyrese, Michonne, and Glenn, they all go to the community in Richmond that Noah was originally from. Basically, they were thinking, maybe this is a place that they could, stay, that they could be safe, start anew. And the group actually splits up. They're the only five that go, and everybody else really stays back somewhere just to make sure that it's safe. I think they've basically been learning through trial and error. You don't want to have everybody going into the place because after suffering through Terminus, they don't want to take any chances. So they get there and they find that the community has just been torn apart. They tore the gates down. Um, Everybody was dead. Um, how they died, I think it happened earlier on in the apocalypse because you hear like radio broadcasts over the radio that were basically saying that people were going around just cannibalizing and killing. And I think that it fell early. I'd have to go back and take a look at what Noah said. I think that Noah really hadn't been back to the community in a long time. So it does kind of make sense if they've been dead for a very long time, which I think is the case. I think they've really been dead for a very long time. So they get there, the community's bust. There's nothing there. And the group basically goes around and scavenges supplies and does what they can. And this episode really did a good job with all the characters that were involved, and especially Michonne. Michonne did a very good job of basically voicing her, frustration, her, being upset, everything that's going on, and just seeing the way that everybody was reacting. She kind of comes together and, tells them, hey, we can make this place a better place for everybody. We can build the walls back up. We can, make it a home for everybody here. And, Rick and Glenn were kind of just like, no, we can't, it's, it's just not, going to work. And they did a really, really good job of like bringing out Michonne's perspective. And you see that, Michonne is really a different character than what she was in the comics. In the comics, Michonne is really still distant. Even to this day, I still feel like when you read the comics, that Michonne just has this disconnected, type of a relationship with people and with herself. She's not really one to show her emotions, and for the show to bring that out and have her be like, guys, wake up. We need a place to go. We need some place to be safe. And I love that scene. They basically go to the one area where the wall was broken down and they see like all these dead bodies, and Michonne is like, wouldn't you want just one more chance? And looking, and they're like, look, we can't be out here much longer. Look over there. You see all those dead bodies? That's what just making it does. And she's really showing that, she's a different person than what we met in season 3. Totally different even from the comics too. And I really like that. I like how they changed her in that way when it comes to the comics into the TV show. Really did a great job with her character. Absolutely great. There was a little bit of a discussion about the fallout between, Beth dying and what happened, and how Rick and Glenn, pondered whether something, whether they could have done something, maybe not, and then whether they would have shot Dawn or not had Daryl not. And that really didn't contribute too much. But I think I better get to the main part of what happened. As we know, Noah's family was there, so Noah wants to go check to see if they're dead, if they're actually there. So he goes up to the house, and Tyrese goes with him. Finds out that yes, his mother and his 2 little twin brothers are dead. He finds his mother dead, and Tyrese goes and explores the rest of the house and finds that there is a walker there, but he doesn't take care of it. He basically goes into the bedroom and starts looking at pictures, and it turns out that the walker is one of Noah's twin brothers, and the walker ends up biting Tyrese right on the arm. And I tell you, I was screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And Tyrese just gets bitten, and Noah comes in and saves him and says, oh, I'm going to go get help. So pretty much most of the episode deals with Tyrese actually, laying on the floor because he's been bitten, he's losing blood. And what's interesting is Tyrese starts to have visions, hallucinations, whatever you might call it. But he starts to, see people that are dead around him and basically taking in, what they're saying. And I think that what that was just, Tyrese's conscience, his, feelings on things and his perspective. Because you had the characters that made appearances were Bob, Lizzie, Mika, Martin, Beth, and the governor. All played a part, and they all looked dead too. Like it was basically how they looked with their injuries. Like Mika's shirt was bloodied from where Lizzie stabbed her. Lizzie had a gunshot wound. The governor had a gunshot wound. Martin had like the stab marks on his neck from where Sasha stabbed him. And basically, you're hearing like everybody's perspective. And I think that what that was Tyrese's different feelings in regards to things that happened since the apocalypse started. They specifically mention a couple of different things. Like Martin basically was, putting Tyrese down, saying like, oh, hey, if you actually would have killed me, maybe I wouldn't have told the group that you were there, and then we would have never found you, and then Bob never would have been bitten, and hey, you guys would still be alive, and trying to make him, feel bad. And I think that, in reality, I think that, now we realize that it really was that Tyrese didn't have the guts to kill him. We never really knew that for sure one way or the other, and it pretty much confirmed that Tyrese didn't have the guts to kill Martin, and that he really just lied to the group and said that he did kill him. I don't think that those ramifications were really as serious, and I think that Tyrese came to the realization of that because Martin was like consistently, just like he was in the cabin, putting Tyrese down. And he was like, hey, I told you it was going to be you. I told you you were going to die, because you're just not cut out for it. That was Martin's take on it. And then basically you had Bob, who was again, somebody that could really influence Tyrese, and also was just, somebody in his life that was a very rational person that could take something that happened and, just not make it, make him realize it wasn't his fault. And looking back, I think they would have found Tyrese in the group anyways. I mean, I don't really think that Tyrese not killing Martin made any difference. I think they were just able to track them and found them. I don't think it made any difference. And I think Tyrese comes to the realization of that. And even, the vision of Bob, it was like, no, man, like that had nothing to do with it. I was bit at the food bank. It's just the way that things were supposed to be. And he's kind of like saying, this is just fate. Fate brings us to this point, and it was obviously Tyrese's time to, get bit. Things happen for a reason, and that's just, the way things were. And I think that Tyrese was able to kind of rationalize that. And then you have Lizzie and Mika basically just sitting there telling Tyrese, it's okay, Tyrese. And then like they'd be like, no, it's better. It's better. They keep using that phrase. And then Beth appears and basically starts playing a guitar and singing to Tyrese. He pictures her singing, and Beth basically tells her that tells him that everything is going to be okay. And I think that what a lot of that was Tyrese coming to the realization that, it is better this way. And I'll get to that with the next point. We also get visions of the governor, of course. And what does the governor do? The governor basically acts as like the devil's advocate, if you want to call it that. Basically almost like taking everything that Tyrese did and kind of looking at the negative and what he, why he was weak. The governor really hit hard of like, when Tyrese was in Woodbury, he was basically saying, oh, well, you were, I told you that you had to, pay your dues, that you had to do these things, that you had to do whatever it took to survive, and you couldn't do it. And that's true. Tyrese flat out told the governor, I'm not fighting people. I'll kill walkers, but I am not fighting these people for you. And you saw that in him. And, the governor was like, I was trying to teach you how to adapt. I was trying to teach you how to be a real survivor. And what'd you do? You blew me off. And, he was basically coming down on Tyrese for that. And then also pointing out, Tyrese's inability to adapt and his inability to, really make some serious decisions like other people did. And, specifically bringing up when Karen was killed and how he forgave Carol. We didn't think that could ever happen, and yet Tyrese did. And the governor was like, hey, you're weak because you forgave the woman that killed the woman you loved. How could you do that? Like, that just shows, how weak you are. But, the governor being the governor, blah, 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 blah. But, kudos to David Morrissey. He just plays a great role. He really, really does. And I think that what ends up happening, is Tyrese is basically running through all of this, and he comes to a lot of different realizations, and I think that in the end, I think that he does, and sadly he does die. That secret's out of the bag. He gets bit. The group finds him and they cut off his arm, but it's pretty much too late. I don't know how long he was there. I think he more died of blood loss versus, excuse me, I think he more died of blood loss versus the walker bite itself, because they cut off his arm with the sword. Michonne does that, and they basically take him to the vehicle. They get away, but Tyrese is sitting in the back seat of the car, and he makes visions of Lizzie, Mika, Beth, and Bob all in the vehicle, and they're basically saying like, you hear like the newscast, and Tyrese talked earlier about how he listened to the news so that way he could help, that it was informative, that it was important. and he finally said, "Turn it off." And I think that what that was him coming to the realization that, he's lived as best as he could, he's done all he could, but it was time to go. And I think that was, them telling, all those visions were basically him coming to the realization that he was going to die, and he was at peace with that. Because he talks about, he says, I forgave, back to the point where, when the governor was coming down on him for forgiving Carol, he goes, I forgave her because it's not over. People like me, they can't live. And he talks about that. And I think that what he was coming down to was, you see that Tyrese in many ways, just was not able to survive in a world like that. And he even admits it. And I think that it is true in a sense. The reason why he was able to live was because he really didn't get exposed to a lot of that on his own. It was more of people were able to protect him. That's not saying that that's a bad thing, but you saw that throughout the series. And, you look back on that. And they were even saying, like Martin even makes a comment, he goes, you didn't want to be a part of it. And I think that it really just speaks to, that Tyrese really, didn't want to have to do this. It's just the way that the world was, and he wasn't going to kill himself, so he had to, live in it. He just couldn't live with it, I think, is more of what it was. And you see that throughout the series. I think Tyrese was a very good character, very good, and I love that you see like a lot of different sides of the Walking Dead world. Um, but I think that what it came down to was there just wasn't anything that he could do to make himself more capable of surviving. I mean, the way that he died, I think, speaks to that. That if he would have just opened the door and killed the walker, then he wouldn't have been bitten. I don't think. I don't think it would have happened. And I think it just shows the way that everybody survives in a different way. It can't always work for every single situation. And I think that it was time in a sense for Tyrese to die. Just that's fate. That's just the way that things worked out. It is sad, that had to happen. I'm gonna do a little bit more of a detailed video on Tyrese, so I don't want to give away too much, because I see I'm running at a long rate here. So I'm gonna cut this video a little short tonight. But I think it was shocking, and a lot of people were like, oh, if Walking Dead's becoming predictable. I don't think anybody could have predicted that. I think that they really just shocked a lot of people. And I think this was a very good episode overall. So I'm going to bring this video to a close, and I'm going to thank all of you for watching. Again, I'll be posting some more videos on this in the near future. Probably do something for Tyrese, and excuse me, answer a couple of other questions that the episode left. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I have more videos coming. And if there's anything that you want me to do, if there's any video topics from tonight's episode that you really want to see, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments. I hope you guys have a very wonderful evening. Rest in peace, Tyrese. And thank you very much for watching. Good night, everybody.